Hello again and welcome to part 3 of the Hazard Identification and Risk Mitigation HIRM Framework tutorial. Nit here, continuing our journey through the HIRM process. In part 2, we successfully completed the HIRM worksheet by applying the 10-step method to determine the risk index based on the existing preventive controls and existing recovery measures. As previously explained, the outcome may result in a risk index classified as intolerable, which requires further action to reduce the risk to an acceptable level. In such case, it becomes necessary to introduce new preventive controls and/or new recovery measures. Additionally, I mentioned in part 2 that even a tolerable risk index may not always be acceptable to management. If further mitigation is required, the same 10-step process applies to implement new controls. When we talk about safety, it is essential to understand the principle of ALARP as low as reasonably practicable. While we must be diligent in protecting safety, we must also ensure that safety measures are balanced and do not burden business operations unnecessarily. As long as adequate protective measures are in place, safety and operational goals can align effectively. As promised, in this session, I will continue with the process of assessing any new preventive controls and recovery measures if applicable. Let's begin by recap part 2, where I demonstrated how to fill out the HIRM worksheet using a given scenario. We have identified the hazard, unsafe event, and the consequences, and calculated the risk index for the scenario. Now, let's take a closer look at this completed worksheet. Table A. This section includes key information such as the area, hazard, unsafe event, and consequences. Table B. You will notice that the details listed in Table A are clearly reflected here, including the hazard, unsafe event, and consequences. Between them, you will find columns for existing preventive controls, new preventive controls, existing recovery measures, new recovery measures. Each control is annotated in the appropriate column and categorized accordingly. From the earlier exercise in part 2, the existing risk index, which in this example was 2B, categorized as tolerable. Moving further down the worksheet, you'll see the following fields: existing preventive controls, new preventive controls, existing recovery measures, new recovery measures. Each control should be described in its respective column, including the escalation factor, if any, and the corresponding escalation control to mitigate that weakness. The barrier strength value, BSV, assigned to each preventive control also will mark here. Let's now continue using the same scenario, this time incorporating the new preventive controls and new recovery measures. New preventive controls. We've introduced 3 new preventive controls as examples. NPC1, visual signage, e.g. photos on trolleys or containers to indicate specific flights or compartments. NPC2, digital baggage reconciliation system with real-time alerts for incorrect loading. NPC3, two-person verification policy. Note, these new preventive controls do not have any associated escalation factors. Next, new recovery measure. We have one new recovery measure, NRM1, real-time integration of load data with aircraft systems to allow recalculation of takeoff parameters if discrepancies are detected. Both the new preventive controls and new recovery measures should be marked under their respective categories across the worksheet here. Next, take out the 10-step guide to obtain the resultant risk index. We will use the same table format that was completed in part 2. The only difference now is the addition of the BSV column for each new preventive control and new recovery measure. The 10-step process remains the same as previously demonstrated. You may refer back to part 2 of the tutorial for a detailed explanation. In this session, I will only explain step 1, determining the resultant severity. The rest of the steps follow the same procedure outlined in part 2. I believe I've already highlighted the severity assessment in part 1 of this tutorial. To recap, severity value is based on the nature and description of the consequence itself, which is generally a straightforward process. For example, if an aircraft crashes on the ground, the severity is clearly catastrophic, indicating multiple fatalities and total destruction. In other words, the justification for severity should remain consistent with the projected consequence regardless of scenario. Can the severity change? Yes, but only based on your SRM team's judgment and solid justification. If you believe the outcome or consequence can be reduced, you must provide strong evidence to support that claim. In this case, I've chosen to maintain the same consequence for the hazard. Hence, my assessment of the resultant severity remains unchanged as shown here. Step 1, 2, and 3. These steps reflect the following values. Step 1, resultant severity equals B. Step 2, optimum number of barriers ONB equals 6. Step 3, use likelihood correlation table for IV, applicable for severity B. Step 4, assigning BSV, we now transfer the BSV barrier strength value of the existing preventive controls EPC and existing recovery measures ERM into the new table. Then assess the BSV for the new preventive controls NPC and new recovery measures NRM using the same method described in step 4 of part 2. Example BSV scores. New PC 4, 5, 4. New RM 5. Now total all BSVs 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 4 equals step 37. Step 6, compare to ONB. ONB for severity B equals 6. We now select the 6 highest BSV values from the total. 5 plus 5 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 equals step 26. Step 6, record the sum as 26. Step 7, reuse this same applicable value 26. Step 8, determine likelihood value, refer to the CBSV likelihood correlation table. A total of 26 falls in the 24 to 30 range, which corresponds to a likelihood value of 1. Step 9, pairing severity and likelihood. Severity equals B, likelihood equals 1, risk index equals 1. B, step 10, risk tolerability. Check the safety risk tolerability table for index 1B, and yes, it's acceptable. So here is the final product. What do you think of this process? It may seem like a lot of steps, but once you're familiar with the process, it becomes very manageable. Mastering this method allows you to present a well-justified risk assessment to top management and confidently explain your analysis to auditors as well. Most importantly, every step must be clearly defined, not just for your understanding, but also for the next person who may take over your role. I have designed a complete worksheet along with a quick reference guide. If you're planning to implement this process in your organization, feel free to reach out. My team and I would be happy to help customize it to suit your operational needs. I'll provide an email address below for further contact. Thank you for your continued support.